Welcome back to episode 14 of Shattered Darkness. With us, as always, is our host, Mitch Benner.
Hello.
My name is Aaron Nelson, and today we have someone amazing that was a fellow loan officer with me at Fairway Mortgage. We have Colin Tomerson. How you doing, buddy?
Doing great, guys. Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, man. Thank you for coming on. We really appreciate your time. And I'm very excited to hear your story.
So one of the cool things about Colin is we have it within our company. We have a men's group, and we all broken off into different groups. And we had a little sip smart before the holidays kind of thing. And Colin's insight is amazing on sobriety. Some of the cool things you said, I know we'll get into it, but really insightful. Sober for what you said, 18 years.
It'll be 18 years on February 7th.
Man,
that's awesome.
So good. So, without further ado, Colin, introduce yourself to the people and begin your story wherever you feel fit, brother.
Excellent. So, my name is Colin Tomerson. I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. I've been married to my wife, Amanda, for 18 years. We have two beautiful children. I have a 10-year-old daughter named Lucia and a 7-year-old daughter named Maggie. I'm a branch manager for Fairway Independent Mortgage here in Raleigh. I'm also a loan officer. I've been in the mortgage business for 23 years.
Wow.
I was recruited from behind the bar at the restaurant where I worked.
Weird, right?
Seriously? Were you really?
Yeah. I was recruited from behind the bar at the restaurant where I worked down in Wilmington. I went to University of North Carolina, Wilmington, down there at the beach. And this guy used to come in all the time, and he was like, "What are you gonna do when you got a business school?" And I was like, "I want to be a businessman." He was like, "What does that mean?" I was like, "I don't know, dude."
I've no idea.
I was like, "You got any ideas?" And he's like, "You'd be good in the mortgage business." I guess once you're a recruiter, you're always a recruiter. And, that was the business that he'd retired from. Turns out he was right. So here I am all these years later. It's all I've ever known. And
awesome.
It's been real good to me. And I enjoyed a lot. My personal business mantra, which is congruent with my lifestyle, is that, the numbers are the easy part. What matters is how you make people feel.
Yeah, for sure.
And my intention is to, make the people that I cross paths with feel comfortable and inspired when possible.
Yeah. So do you guys have like an office location there where you have your LOs coming in and working with you face to face, or do you guys do mostly, kind of this situation?
So I'm in the office now. I do have an office. And we do have LOs that come in and work from the office as well. But since COVID, it's very much a hybrid. Yeah, totally. We do work from home most of the time. But I'm here today. And
and how many loan officers do you guys have on your team?
3.
Nice, man. That's awesome. How did you meet your wife?
So I met my wife in my darkest hour. So I met her 4th of July weekend, 2006, at a pool party.
Okay.
And I was waiting for one of my buddies to get there with the cooler full of beer.
Yeah.
And she and her friends were hanging out, and they had beer. So I strolled over to her and asked her for a beer, and that's honestly how it started.
One thing led to the next, and that's awesome, man. Very cool.
Yeah, we've been by each other's side ever since.
I was going to say, how long have you guys been together?
Almost 20 years.
Good for you, man. Congratulations. So tell us a little bit about your background. Were you born and raised in North Carolina? And just kind of a little bit, you don't have to go too far into it, but just kind of a little bit of your background, and then kind of how alcohol got introduced to you in your life, and kind of what that relationship was at the beginning.
Sure. So I bounced around a lot. I was born outside of Chicago, Illinois, lived in Alabama for a little bit, moved to Portsmouth, Virginia, Tidewater, Virginia, which is where I spent most of my young years. When I was in high school, 8th grade, I went to 3 different schools in 8th grade.
Wow.
Bounced around a lot.
Yeah.
Went to another school my freshman year of high school when I moved up to the Milwaukee area to live with my dad.
Was that sophomore year? Was that the bouncing around? Was that because of military, or were your parents split up, or kind of what was going on there?
Yeah, no military.
Okay.
My parents divorced when I was 10 months old.
Okay.
So my mom was, she was bouncing around, really doing the best she could.
Yeah.
And I was, tagging along for the ride.
Gotcha.
And then when I got to be high school age, moved up to live with my dad and went to the first school that I went to in high school in my freshman year. Then we moved again and went to another school my sophomore year of high school. So, between 8th grade and sophomore year of high school, I went to 5 different schools.
Dude, that's crazy. That had to be so hard to like make friends and like, even just have any kind of connection.
Well, honestly, I'm I'm very resilient actually.
Right. Yeah.
And the bouncing around and, where I grew up and the environment that I grew up in when I was younger was very tough. It was rough.
Yeah.
And so I've always had to survive.
Yeah.
And I've always had to,
Just kind of bootstrap it.
and roll with it. It was either, fight or flight. So, if I didn't fit in, if I didn't stick up for myself, I would have been eaten alive.
Yeah.
So going to multiple schools, and especially the schools that I went to after, the ones when I was really young, it was a much easier environment. So it was almost like being on vacation because I wasn't scared for my life, honestly,
Right.
like I was when I was much younger. So I didn't, I didn't have much of a problem with it.
Gotcha.
Actually.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. So yeah, keep kind of going. And so you're freshman in high school. I mean, do you have a good amount of friends? I mean, kind of tell us a little bit about your high school experience?
My high school experience was great. When I landed sophomore year in Muskego, Wisconsin, just outside of Milwaukee, it was a great environment. Wisconsin's a great place. The people are wonderful.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it, honestly. Man, I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun in high school.
Good.
Had a ton of friends. Fit in with everybody. I grew up skating, so
yeah, me too, man.
That was my scene. When I was younger. By the time I got to high school, it was that period of time, in the early '90s when everybody just stopped skating. Like overnight, it seemed like it happened. Right? Came back in like '95, and I picked it back up when I went to college. But when I was in high school, the focus was partying, and that's what we did, dude.
Yeah, man.
And we had a lot of fun doing it. But I got along with everybody. I was athletic. I got along with the athletes.
Would you say your guys' high school was like cliquey, in the sense of like jocks are with jocks and like that kind of situation, or was it more inclusive?
Maybe a little. I think they're all cliquey to a degree.
Yeah.
I didn't really experience a whole heck of a lot of that.
Yeah.
Because I could, me bouncing around and having to move a lot made me, I was, like a chameleon, man. I could,
Totally.
I can fit in anywhere. And at this point, you could drop me, pretty much anywhere, and I think I'd be okay.
Yeah.
So
Real
but
quick,
it was good.
Rich, just got to ask, man, can you still do a kickflip?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Can you really? Okay. I actually was teaching my neighbor kid how to do an ollie the other day. And you and I, man, we could nerd out on the skate life because like all that stuff. I grew up on that, man. We used to literally write out CCS catalogs. Like we just go through CCS catalogs and like write out all the stuff that we wanted and like design our own skate, like our own decks. And it was, dude, we loved it.
Yeah, man. Once a skater, always a skater.
Always. Yeah. So, but I broke my foot in June and I don't know, man. It hurts pretty bad when I do it now.
We should go find that kid and let's just teach him how to kickflip and stuff next time by your house.
He lives right across the street. It's
it's Will?
Yeah, dude.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. We have a good time. I do a lot of rolling around anymore. I'm not.
Yeah, more like bowls and stuff like that.
More like flat sidewalks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel you, man. I feel you.
Longboards are a lot easier to ride.
Yeah, well, they're a little faster.
I did eventually sell out and get a longboard.
Yeah. Hey, you know what?
It looks like a regular skateboard. It's just huge.
Yeah. And I moved to California after high school, and we used to live in San Francisco. And dude, we just go to the top of these hills and go for miles on longboards all the way down to the beach. It was so much fun.
Yeah, nice.
But, Anyway, sorry. Yeah. So you're high school, a lot of partying. Were your folks around at this time, or your dad? Were you living with your dad still at this point?
Yeah, I was living with my dad and my stepmom. Well, his girlfriend
Okay.
and her daughter, who was about my age. We had a really good, stable home environment. Um, they drank, they partied, they did more than drinking.
Yeah.
I really wasn't aware of it at the time, but it didn't really have, it didn't, it wasn't, it was fine.
Yeah. It didn't like
Um,
have a huge impact
my
on you.
dad was a partier. My dad was a really cool guy, but he partied. He was involved with some other stuff, some other illicit things, and but he was always really good to me.
Yeah.
And but I kind of picked up on the drinking from it was always around. I come from a long line of alcoholics.
Yeah.
On my father's side, my father, his parents, my grandparents, my mother, her father. So it was
Everywhere, man.
it's in my genes,
Yeah. And
honestly.
that's a good point. This is something, we're getting the opportunity for 12, 14 episodes into this podcast to speak into people's lives. And that's one thing, like that shame and that guilt, of alcoholism and those decisions that we make. And I'm finding that people have a hard time giving themselves grace. And the one thing that I'm going back to is like, dude, this is a medically classified disease. There's got to be a little bit of, and that helped me to be like, okay, part of this, like, yes, there is the personal accountability, right? And taking ownership for your actions, which is extremely important. But at the same time, like, you can have grace for yourself because it's a disease, it's genetic. And I've not talked to many alcoholics that don't have the same situation, where you shake their family tree and alcoholics are falling out like apples. So I just want to highlight that, like it's hard to have grace on yourself because yes, we are the ones that put ourselves in these situations. But at the same time, to get rid of that guilt and that shame, it's kind of helpful to look at that from that perspective and say, okay, you know what? Like maybe part of this, like I can give part of this up, it's maybe not as much my fault as I thought. So I just want to highlight that because I think that's important for people listening.
Yeah, I would add that one of the things that I'm most proud of having stopped drinking is that that's one of the generational curses that I've broken.
Totally, man.
By the way.
100%. And how
Kids,
does that,
my kids have never seen me drink. Especially like I used to drink, which is where I learned how to drink.
right?
Watching the people around me.
Totally, man. Yeah.
My kids, they're not exposed to that. My wife drinks responsibly,
Yeah.
and which is good for them to see what that looks like.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. And I was going to ask you, how does that breaking that generational curse? I mean, how does that feel?
Amazing. I'm so proud. I'm so proud of myself,
Yeah.
and happy for them that they don't have to carry that burden.
Dude, and that's the thing with because when I went through rehab, my daughter was 5. So I told her what was going on for that reason. Like I wanted her to see me fail and see me pick myself back up. And unfortunately they did see me drink, but it's really important to us too. Like my wife and I say that all the time. And it's something that you can tangibly hold on to, in this process of like, I am breaking this curse, and it's very motivational. At least it was for us.
That's really cool. I mean, I'm curious when you say that, Colin, because I've thought about that a lot. Of my sister has her struggles, and she's less than 2 years sober, right? So in a way, my sister and I are doing something very similar to what you just mentioned. But my question, and I'm not saying you're doing like what you said is wrong or anything, but the way I thought of breaking this is I want my son Connor to be the one that like doesn't even have a problem.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's possible because of the hereditary of the genes. You're 400 times more likely to pick it up if it's been passed down. I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking and going to get your thoughts on that, Colin. Like, when do you feel you've really broken the curse when you see your kids growing up and not doing it?
That's the point.
My man.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it
You know,
hit me, like it got me,
right.
but it won't get them.
Right. You know, and
And
the
I'm
other
the
thing,
example. I'm the example for them.
please go ahead.
The buck stops with me. I'm the last one.
Yeah.
Love
And
that.
I like this too. Like cause what gives me peace, dude, I see myself, my daughter is a spitting image of me emotionally, physically, everything. It's crazy. So I know that but I have the tools, right? Like I have the tools to hand to her to be like, hey, look,
Mm-hmm.
I'm already seeing this in you. Like, obviously not at 5 years old, but we have those tools and those things and we've been through it. And that's where I don't think like our parents' generation, I just don't think they had the tools. Dude, my parents never drank until I was like 17. And then it was like balls to the wall,
Wow.
And so yeah, I don't know. But that just gives me a piece of like, now I've got the tools and they've seen me my whole life walk this path of sobriety. So I don't worry about that too much, but that's a good point.
Yeah. Colin, good for you. That's amazing. So back to high school,
Good
or
for
I guess
them.
what I want to ask you is, where do you feel like alcohol really had you?
Like took a hold of you.
Well, I got a good start in high school because
Yeah.
we raged pretty hard,
Yeah.
and
But can I
then
ask you
when
a question?
yeah,
Do you think there was a mentality around that skater kind of culture? Do you think that had something to do with it?
I don't, because like I said, when I was in high school, everybody stopped skating. There was a period, during the early '90s, from
Yeah.
'91 to '95, where it was like everybody put their skateboards down and didn't skate. So I wasn't skating.
Okay.
Um, I was partying, but and the mentality, or I guess it wasn't for everybody, because everybody wasn't behaving like we were, but we
Right.
we partied, man.
Yeah.
We wanted to go out and party and bullshit and
Yep.
you know
Have
uh,
fun and yeah,
have
dude.
fun,
Boxing parking
dancing,
lot.
girls, and
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
that was just what we did, and honestly, it was fun then,
Yeah.
and
Totally.
and I wasn't. I was drinking to party and have a good time. I
Right.
wasn't drinking to drown anything down, or which I've got a backpack full of stuff. My issues follow me around like a shadow.
Yeah.
Um, that's not what was happening then. When I went to college and didn't have any guardrails and was completely on my own. I graduated high school at 17. That summer, I moved to Topsail Island, lived
Okay.
in Surf City,
Yeah.
and discovered Wilmington, North Carolina, which is a great college town. And everybody was just going nuts.
Yeah.
And that's when it started to, really kind of pick up momentum. I think it was probably 1996 when we started using cocaine
Yeah.
regularly. And I was 18 years old.
Wow. That's
Right.
great.
So one of the, and when I look back on it, it's interesting too. Like tell you about my story. My story changes.
Totally.
The story that I'm interested to see how this goes today, and coming back to this podcast and listening to it, because we're freestyling everything.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to see what my story sounds like now compared to what it sounded like 5 years, 10 years, 15 years ago,
Totally.
because over time, I continue to change.
It's funny. I was literally thinking about that because somebody asked me, they're like, how are you going to keep this podcast going indefinitely? And I'm like, dude, if we run out of content, we'll just go back to the guests that we already had and talk about where they're at right now, because our lives are constantly changing, right? Our perspectives are constantly changing. Our story is still being written today, right? Like this podcast, this episode is part of that. So, dude, that's a really honestly insightful comment, thought, whatever, because yeah, I mean it's so true, man. And talking to people like you that have 18 years, that's going to change my trajectory, right? Aaron's trajectory. We're going to learn something from you. So I just want to highlight, that's a really good perspective.
And that's something that for sure. I'm glad you feel that way. And, and if, what we talk about today helps one person or inspires even one person, it's worth it.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I continue to change. I continue to grow. I continue to evolve. Who I am today, I'm not the same cat I was today that I was a year ago.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So, my story is my story's thick. There's a lot of chapters in it. Right. We'll get some, I'm thinking we'll probably highlight some of those things and, getting into the chapter of, being in college, no guardrails, going absolutely nuts. When I think back on that, I recognized that I was putting a lot of chemicals into my body with an undeveloped brain and undeveloped emotions. I hadn't had experience of life, and my brain just wasn't developed, right? I was this young kid with mush for a brain going hard, real hard every night. And, and I worked in the restaurant business, and, we'd walk out of work with a pocket full of cash and we'd hit the bar, right? Fake ID before, I was probably 19. I had a fake ID, and I, was on the scene and I could get into places and, we were doing all the stuff. And, college is when it really started when it went from being fun to pulling all-nighters.
Yeah.
Staying up for days at a time, drinking, doing all the other stuff. And when I look back on that, I realized that I damaged my brain.
Yeah.
I'd done some serious damage. And then my point is that when you damage your brain, you're not thinking clearly, right? And so when you're using and damaging your brain at the same time, it it all exacerbates on itself.
Totally.
Well, I mean, like it makes it worse.
Yeah, and to expand on that, dude, because that's a good point. 18 to probably 25, 26 years old in a young man, there's a lot going on at that time, right? Emotionally, you're plugging into the world, and even for women, it doesn't have to be men. I mean, it's everybody, right? Like you're plugging into the world, you're trying to figure out your identity. How do I fit into this crazy system? You're still biologically maturing and then throwing in all of these mind altering substances, body altering substances. I totally know what you mean, and I think that that's why I personally had a lot of issues and turned to drugs and alcohol at that time, because I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't go to college, and I tried, but I kind of dropped out, and I just didn't know. So I was confused. I was scared, and you connect with the wrong people, and one thing leads to another. And yeah, dude, I totally understand where you're coming from with that, and I know exactly what you're talking about. It just amplifies all of that craziness.
Well, it makes you more vulnerable.
Totally.
And more susceptible to depression.
Totally.
And anxiety. And that type of thing really shows up in those formidable years in your late teens, early 20s. And that's when things, from childhood traumas, for example, started to show up, and I didn't know how to deal with them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I would drink and I would use.
Yep.
And everything just snowballed on one another, and it got worse and worse over time.
Well, and then it becomes your coping mechanism.
Yeah. And then it went from being fun to unfun pretty quick. But I kept on and I would shake it off for a while. And I was a binge drinker. Like, you start drinking, when I started drinking in high school, we drank to get fucked up. Yeah. And we were binge drinking. That's all I ever did. Right. And so, I mean, I could go for a period, for days, whatever, not drink, not really think about it too much. But when I got on it, I mean, we were going hard.
Yeah.
And it got to a point where, the other stuff started to show up and things that I needed to deal with, you know, emotionally, spiritually, just stuff,
Yeah.
like we all have there's one thing in common that we all have, and it's we all got shit going on,
Totally.
right?
Yep.
We all have stuff, and that stuff started to show up, and I wanted to, start to address it. And I did a little bit. I did manage to graduate college somehow. Well, like I said, I could always, like keep it together,
Right. Just barely
just
scraping by.
just
Yeah.
barely,
Yep.
So I made it through college. The guy that I met at the bar hooked me up with some of his friends in Raleigh. They gave me a job. I started doing mortgages right away, 24 years old. And then I had some money.
Yeah, dude.
So having the habits that I had well formed up until then, and now I could support my habits because I had money, things got a little more hairy.
Yeah.
Right. So that was, let's see, I graduated and started working in 2001 when I moved up to Raleigh. Continued to, I had success at work. And
Did you enjoy doing that right off the bat?
yeah,
Yeah, you liked it?
yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
The way why I enjoy it now is different from why I liked it then.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
If in the beginning it's about me, totally. Right? I want to be number one. I want to go on the trips. I want to be the top dog. Over time, it's less about me and more about we.
Right.
And that's where, that's the season that I'm in currently. And then, I was up here in Raleigh working. After a few short years, I moved back to Wilmington, opened a branch. I was when I first got my first branch. I was 28.
Gosh, that's crazy.
Went from Wilmington to take over a branch down in Florida. I was there for 6 months. Went from there to running a team in a direct sales unit in Nashville, Tennessee. All within a really short period of time. Career really kind of really took off.
Yeah.
I had a house here in Raleigh. I owned a house in Wilmington. I was living on the beach in Florida and staying with a friend of mine in Nashville, Tennessee. When I ultimately, went there, man, I've got all these houses. I got all these things doing all this stuff. And I was empty inside. And I was just partying. And
I was going to say the whole time this is going on, you're still using and partying.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was a pro.
Yeah.
I was a pro.
Yeah, dude.
Isn't that crazy how you think, we're really, really, really good at drinking.
Oh, yeah.
So you think you're able to manage it and still write loans and keep relationships together and things like that. But I think now you're kind of starting to get into it, that the empty inside and obviously not sustainable.
Yes, for sure. And the drinking was bad. It was bad. Like I could barely get to work and hide it well enough to where people didn't know that I was still messed up.
Yeah. Did it ever get to a point where you had to drink in the morning to kind of clear off the day before?
Towards the end.
Yeah.
So then I moved back from, I quit. I was, hit, not rock bottom, but I was skidding along the bottom, for a while. And that started, that was 2005 when I was in Nashville. I went up to the office on a Sunday, packed all my stuff, and then called my boss on Monday morning. And I was like, I'm out of here. I was like, I got to go back to Raleigh, because that was the one place where I felt most safe and stable my entire life was the 2 years that I lived in Raleigh, and I needed to get back here. And I had good friends here, and I moved back into the townhouse that I bought with my buddy Pete. Um, and within 2 months, they kicked me out of my own place.
Really?
Whoa.
Yep, they were like, "Man, you got to get the fuck out of here."
Just too much.
I was too much, man.
Yeah.
Talking about like did I drink in the morning to shake off the next day? What it looked like for me is that I would get so tore up the night before, I'd wake up the next day and I still think I like was kind of blacked out,
Yeah.
and I would drink, and then I would pass out, and then like and it got to a point where like I would come to, and I would think it was like maybe like Saturday, or, no, it wasn't Sunday, dude, it was Monday.
Jesus.
Um,
That's crazy.
and I would just wake up long enough to drink and drinking and sleeping. That's what they said I would do.
Wow.
Holy cow.
Yeah. And it was nasty, man. I was out of second chances, third chances, fourth chances. It got to a point. So I got an apartment. And that apartment building is where I met a girl. I met the girl.
Yep.
Right. Her name's Amanda. And she's my wife. We've been together for 20 years. She was my muse. She was my inspiration. Ultimately, in the beginning, she ran with me.
Did she?
Right?
I was going to ask if she was, when you guys met, if she was into it too.
Yeah. She's not straight edge. Right.
Yeah.
But she's not like me.
Yeah. Which is probably good, right?
To be sure. She's amazing. And, it got to a point where like I met her that summer. I met her July 4th, 2006. We, went hard for the summer into, the winter. And that's when it just kept getting worse and worse and worse for me. So like all my buddies, they didn't even want to be around me.
Yeah.
Right. My friends wouldn't hang out with me. And, I was tired of it, man. At some point, enough's enough.
Yeah.
And, I was done being a victim, and I wanted to, tap into what I've always had. Everything that we need is already inside of us. I'm well aware of that now because I've been practicing and living a sober life, and for quite a while now, and tapping into my source energy,
Yeah.
and my seat of consciousness, which is where I try to stay. I fall off all the time, daily, but anyway, I was over it, man. So and all the while I was thinking to myself, I was like, man, like what if there is a different way? What? Because I thought I would die.
Yeah.
Like I didn't think I always like I thought I would die young, just being wild and crazy and doing crazy shit.
Yeah.
And that I wouldn't be. I never foreshadowed myself being married, and having that kind of life, because I was just living the life of a party.
Yeah.
And I started to ask myself, I was like, well, what if, why not me? Because
Was there something that triggered that outside of just maybe the disgust that you were feeling, or obviously you'd met Amanda, that I'm assuming that probably had a little bit of a mental shift for you when you met her.
it had everything to do with it.
Yeah.
She saved me.
Yeah.
She saved me.
Did she ever?
She was my inspiration. She was my motivation.
Yeah.
Right. Because she wasn't like the girls that I had been with before. She was the one where I was like, man, she's out of my league, you know, or like
Totally.
she's not gonna stick around and put up with this bullshit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She's the type of girl that I could see myself having a family with. You're like
Yeah.
marrying. You're like,
Yeah.
I mean, I could marry her. Like,
Right.
wow, that's crazy to think about. You know, like I could
Yeah.
marry her and then have children. And I knew if I didn't stop what I was doing, that she wasn't going to stick around.
Yeah.
So it motivated me and she inspired me to get my shit together, along with the fact that I was fucking over it.
Yeah.
You know, I was tired of living like I was living. I was tired of feeling like shit. I was tired of, um, like you mentioned before, the guilt, the shame. You know, who do I have to apologize to? What happened last night or the past couple of days? Am I going to lose my job?
Right.
You know, the crazy part was that I didn't know what had happened, and the anxiety and the stress around that, because I was so tore up. I didn't know what had been going on,
Right.
really. You
Yeah.
know, so I didn't want it. I didn't want that anymore. I
I had
wanted
a
something. I wanted something new.
yeah, I had a period of time like that too. And, you know, you'd run into a friend or whatever, you wake up to a text message. It's like, dude, if I ever see you again, I'm going to kick the shit out of you. Like, I can't believe what you did last night. And I'm like, oh shit. Like, I don't remember what happened. So I know what you mean, man. That stuff was
Horrible feeling. I hated
horrible,
that.
dude. And it's just like, and then you hear the stories of the things that you did and you're like, what? Like, you should have kicked the shit out of me.
Did
It
you
was
ever have
really
that feeling,
embarrassing.
though?
Yeah, totally, man. It was totally embarrassing. What were you going to say?
Did you ever have that feeling though? Because Colin, it's crazy. You know, you're telling a big part of what I relate to. I was sick of it. I was over it.
Mhm.
Naya came in, gave me the ultimatum. But did you ever have that though, where you were just the way Colin described, of just over it, wanted a way out, you just couldn't?
Uh, yeah, probably. You know,
I know where the way you got sober was
I had
way different.
yeah, and I had suicidal ideations at the end. So I think in a way, yes, that was my way out. You know, like I didn't know.
What, death by suicide was your way out?
Yeah, like I
Okay.
didn't know in my crazy brain. Like that's the only thing that made sense because your life had so twisted at that point, right? Like I'd made so many mistakes, and I was just like looking at the past was just like, there's no way I can ever fix what I've broken. You know, and so in my mind it was like that's not fixable, you're not fixable, it'd be better if you just weren't here, you know. And I think that that's where those ideations started coming for me in the end.
Gotcha.
But and I don't know, man, it's weird. I'm dealing with some stuff with my wife now because dude, she just kind of shouldered it and was like, okay, like he's a piece of shit and I can't rely on him for anything, so she just shouldered our life, which is crazy to think about. Like she basically built walls around me, you know, that were like protecting me from the kids in those moments. And I mean, it was really bad, you know, and it's now I'm starting to learn about those walls that she put up, you know, and really in the end, I got arrested and I was already on the sober journey, like detox. I was going down that road and she did slightly give me an ultimatum, you know, but I think she knew at that point, like, you know, he's on this path and I was tired of it. You know, I was tired of feeling the way that I did and waking up in the morning and, you know, feeling like shit and not getting up till 10 o'clock. And, you know, my house is empty and there's notes all over the house. Like it was just terrible, man. So I think for me now, we're like breaking through that stuff now because my wife still has those walls around me,
Sure.
you know, and we've got to work on that.
Well, that's why I bring it back to Colin here, because it's somewhat common, you know, when you know, me and this whole journey, Colin, is I'm trying to shorten that time frame where someone has a problem, has a problem. How do we get them to feel like we all did? I'm sick of this. I'm over it. I need to get sober. I just don't know how.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a real answer for that, but Colin, thanks for bringing that up, man. So get back to your story. You know, Amanda comes in, you're ready. How did that happen to get you to that sober date, my friend?
So kind of, you know, tying into what you like, what do we tell people to help them? I mean, I was scared for my life. I thought I was going to die, dude.
Yeah.
I was going to die.
Did you ever get like tests on your liver and like, did you ever get?
No. It wasn't anything. No, see, it wasn't like that. It was, dude, it was my nice ones, right? Pull a nice one, like, am I going to wrap my car around a telephone pole?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Am I going to go a little too hard and not wake up? I was just so scared. I was scared to death, man. I was like, I'm gonna fucking die, dude. Like, there's like, I'm gonna die. What have I done?
Right.
What have I accomplished? What life have I created? And now I have this opportunity with this amazing girl. I wanted to change. That's when it was like, enough is enough, man. Like, enough is enough. At some point, enough's enough. You tap into your inner gangster and you snatch your power back.
Freaking
right?
love that, dude. That's awesome. I'm gonna steal that.
Well, so
It's true.
I'm gangster as fuck, and I used to do it and like been partying and it was fun and it was cool and everything, and then this shit's not cool. That's not the. Now I'm a spiritual gangster, right? Dude. So, I tried, pulled some nice ones. My mom came to visit Christmas that year. Amanda's parents were in town. I got so wasted. I missed Christmas.
Wow.
Dude, I've got a laundry list of ones like those kinds of examples.
Oh, dude, me too.
So I'm, just giving you a little bit of an abbreviated version, here coming towards the, when things finally changed for me. So that was Christmas. That was, and living through those things and the pain, I was like, God damn, I was like, I can't, like, enough is enough, and, like, you keep doing it. It's like, man, the next nice one is going to be the final one.
Yeah.
Right. And I can smell it coming, dude. I'm not stupid. My intuition's on point, and I knew I was pushing it, and I'd been pushing it for years, many, 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 many years, probably like 8, 7, 8 years to a degree. So, and also, with Amanda's mom had just gotten sober.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. So she's got about a year and a half ahead of me.
Okay.
So they saw me doing the shit that I was doing, and they didn't judge me, dude. You know what I mean?
Wow, bro. Are you serious?
Yeah. Yep. They forgave me,
That gave me chills, like just hearing that.
Yep. So like the universe puts people in our paths for a reason. Everything has everything to do with everything. None of this stuff is by chance or coincidental.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
I do.
We can go down to you have a whole conversation around quantum energy and that type of thing, but let me reel it in here a little bit. They didn't judge me. I was like, oh God, like I'm like, y'all don't hate me, like it's okay, and they did forgive me, and I could tell that they had love for me, and I was surrounded by people that loved me, man. Very, very, very blessed. My boys that kicked me out of my townhouse, they loved me.
Yeah.
Right. But they couldn't keep on, with the shit I was doing.
Yeah.
My man Pete the Meat, Benji, Turley, Scott, those are all my homies. My therapist, Elena, she helped me too. Baba and Papa, Amanda's parents. Countless others.
Like, I literally almost got tears in my eyes from what you said about about your in-laws. Like, I've got so many people that reach out to me, and they're, like, my wife went to Al-Anon, I'll just say it, to learn how to help me, and to learn how to be around an alcoholic. And it's tough, right? Because it's that right there. It's love. It's grace. It's because we are already, as the alcoholic, tearing ourselves apart. We already have that guilt, that shame. And the only thing that we want is to not feel that. Right. And so when we get it from the people that we love, that guilt, that shame, that pointing the finger, it's not helpful. It drives that person farther into it, And so I'm constantly telling people, like, look, if you really want to help this person, show up in their life in a way that they don't expect you to, and help them, like truly help them, because this is something that's at this point out of their control almost, and so I really like choking up again, man. Like that is just such a gift, that your in-laws gave you. And I just really, really want to highlight that if you're not an alcoholic, but you're listening to this, that is key right there. That is huge.
Yeah, don't stop loving them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
Lucille is my mother-in-law's name. We call her Baba. She's Baba to my kids. I call her Ma. She's been like a mom to me. My mom died a long time ago, so she's always been that very special person to me, and I love her with my whole heart. My dad too. My father-in-law, dad,
That's
Anthony.
awesome, man. That's really cool.
But yeah, like Baba had been through it,
Yeah.
and she got it. She understood. And to your point, telling people like, you need to stop. You should stop. It's like, I don't want this.
Dude,
How?
yeah.
How?
My
Help
wife,
me.
when I
Like,
relapsed,
I don't want this life. I've tried. You know what I mean? I'm not doing this because I like it.
right.
I'm fucked up, man. I don't know what's going on. My brain is damaged.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And like you were mentioning too, like if folks are listening to this and you're not alcoholic, but there's somebody in your life that is, or that's struggling, don't stop loving them.
Yeah.
Be there for them. And sometimes being there for them is just showing up,
Yeah.
To that point really quick, your boys loved you, but they had to give you the love that you needed. And that was kicking you out, helping you realize, there's different types of love, not enabling. That is not what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
And
Yep.
yep.
Sure. Because at some point, like as a loved one of somebody that's struggling, you have your enough's enough too.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm done with you and your bullshit.
Yep. Totally.
You know what I mean? Like, I know you're hurting. I know I get it. I hear you. I can't fix you.
Right.
You got to fix you. And when you've had enough and come around, I'll be there for you. And that's how my boys were.
Yeah.
So like when my boys were, when my boys who like I ran with and who, like that was, the crew.
Yeah.
Right. Like all of them, going years and years back.
Yeah.
When your homies won't hang out with you, man, that's shit it's like sobering.
Yeah. It's kind of
eye opening.
Yeah.
It's like, damn, like, okay. You run out of friends.
Yep.
And Amanda was the last one there.
And that's crazy to say, like, you don't realize until those things happen, like, oh shit, maybe I am like way farther gone than I thought I was.
Mm-hmm. Well, a good friend will call you on your bullshit.
Yeah, totally.
They'll tell you. So my last nice one was, so like that happened at Christmas. I made it till midnight on New Year's Eve without drinking, and at that point, like I was strung out. You know what I'm saying? Like I'd been a full blown addict, like jonesing,
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And feeling that, and that crackish feeling. Oh my God. And I fought through it all through, New Year's Eve, and we were at a New Year's Eve party and it struck midnight and everybody's like kissing and celebrating. And like, I was like, I can have a glass of champagne. Man, I took like straight to the head and it's like, and as soon as it touches my lips, it was like, and it's like, like that's, like I'm a full blown sick person. And I knew that, right? Yeah. Like that wasn't the first time where I was like, oh, but I was like, man, this shit is serious. It's got a hold of me in a bad way to where I couldn't not drink it. And then when I did, it was, I felt like Pookie or something, like it was horrible.
Yeah.
And then my stepsister got married in Jamaica in February. Missed the wedding. I was doing crazy, and I've been to Jamaica many times, and I knew a lot of people there, locals, and we got into some real serious stuff. And I pulled a bender for I don't know how many days it was. Like, we got there and took them out for my stepbrothers. Kind of like a little bachelor party situation, and things got crazy. I missed the wedding. My dad came knocking on my hotel room. Get up, what are you doing? And I got in the shower and stumbled down there. And I remember stumbling down there. But then I don't remember anything for a couple of days later until we were at like a party in the hills in Jamaica with a bunch of locals. And I had eaten a bunch of ecstasy.
Yeah.
And, grams of cocaine and rum and, but I remember I just have like these flashes of going like, I was there then. I remember that moment. And then that's when, and I think that was like the last night, or I don't know how long that night lasted. But when I finally, woke up, my stepmom sat me down and she was like, kiddo, she used to call me kiddo, something's got to change. What the hell has happened to you?
Yeah.
And I just was like, I was crying. I was like, I've tried to stop. I don't want to be like this anymore. Cause I had gone to like some AA meetings, like during that previous winter. And I was there then in a third world country, surrounded by this extended family. I quit cold turkey.
Wow.
Drinking. I've been on a massive coke bender, ecstasy. So like I was coming off of cocaine, ecstasy, alcohol. Like I was shaking. I was detoxing. It was sketchy, dude. Like I
And you did that? Did you do that on your own? You didn't do it medically?
Yeah, I did it in the middle of Jamaica.
Jesus, dude, you're hardcore, bro.
Well, I was like, man, I'm gonna die. Like I felt like I was gonna die, and I just and the cat was out of the bag, dude.
Yeah.
Everybody knew. That's another thing that's really helpful.
Yeah.
Quit keeping the secret.
Yeah, that's
what
I'm
saying. Like when your secret's out, when the secret's out and the jig is up, people know, and then it's like I can't hide it.
It changes.
If you know what I'm trying to hide.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So they all knew about it. So I certainly couldn't like have a drink. You know what I mean? Because they all knew.
Yeah.
So I sat there and shook for I don't know, a day or two.
Yeah. Dude, this is something too. We've said it a couple times, but I didn't know this till I got into rehab. But alcohol, when you detox from alcohol, is actually the only substance that you can die from during the detox process.
It was bad, man.
That's crazy, dude.
So I was like, never again. And the promise was, I wasn't promising my family. I wasn't promising, Amanda. She wasn't there. I promised myself.
Yeah.
I tried, fell off. Like that previous winter, like I tried. I was done. I'd been over it, right? And I promised myself, and that was, one of the first big wins of my life. Is I won.
Yeah.
And I came home. Amanda picked me up from the airport, and I was like, I'm never drinking again. I am never drinking again. I promise. She'd heard me say something like that before, but this time I meant it. And we hung out in her apartment. She was young, man. She was like 23 at the time, and right out of school. And, we didn't have much. I was living in an apartment across town, but we sat on the floor. We would make like a pallet with all the blankets, because there wasn't any furniture. There was a couch, that like probably came with her from college or, whatever. But we just laid on the floor and made pallets and watched movies and talked and got to know each other on a much deeper level. And she would cook food for us, and
That's awesome, man.
man, we just it fell in love, and then I started getting clear. And once I made up my mind, dude, and that's like when I snatched that gangster, man, and I was like, let's fucking go. Like I'm done with the bullshit. Like I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. And then I finally stopped looking backwards or living, in this state of like limbo, and
Yeah.
started living for the future.
That's amazing,
Yeah.
man. I'm curious, throughout this whole journey, how did you keep the mortgage business afloat? Like when it was really bad, that winter up until now in your story, were you still writing loans?
Yeah. Yep. Writing loans, missing appointments with clients.
Yeah.
Yep.
Crazy,
Got drunk, passed out. People showed up at the office. People, manager come looking for me. We're all friends. Like you get really tight in this business. You know what I'm saying? Like, so,
Yeah.
like other LOs, my manager would come to the house and be looking for me, and everybody's like, "What in the hell is going on with you?"
That's crazy.
So
Let me
I
ask
got
you.
lucky, dude. It was I got real good at holding it. I don't know, dude, getting by, talking my way through it, out of it. But just barely, dude, I should have gotten fired like a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where things started to happen like that for me too. I buried us financially, in a bottle, and yeah. So I totally understand. And then you make these excuses, right? Like, and dude, my doctor didn't even know what was going on. Like, that's how good I got at hiding it. At least I thought. So now this is a big question for me. How have you stayed sober for 18 years?
I don't want to say. It seems weird to say it's been easy.
Crazy, right?
But
I agree with you there.
I do too.
Mine was easy.
Like, how do I stay sober? I don't want to die.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I know what's going to happen. Like, if I drink, I'm blacked out. I'm done. Like, I don't have any more nice ones in me. I don't have any more chances.
And I feel like
I'm so scared. I know what will happen, and I have too much to lose. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I don't want it. Like, there's nothing good that comes from it.
and I think it's once you experience life, dude, I started drinking probably 19 and I didn't stop till November of 23. And I couldn't remember even a week that I went without drinking in that almost 20 years. And so it's like that was me. It was my life, it was my identity. It's all I knew. And once I experienced life on the other side of that coin, clarity, feeling better, people are now apologizing to me because of things that they did, and it's not the other way around. And, it's just, you're like, oh shit, like I actually can do this, and just living that day in, day out life, sober life is motivating in of itself, and I always ask that question because, some people are like, dude, I'd stayed tied to AA for 18 years. I'd say right now, the biggest thing for me, one, I don't want it. Two, I feel very accountable to the people that are listening to this podcast, and that is that I hold on to that, it's motivation. It's a purpose. And I feel like that once you find that in your life, like a real, true spiritual purpose, it changes everything.
100%, man. I love the life I have now.
Yeah.
And it's hard. There's,
Absolutely.
you go above and below your baseline. We oscillate. Some days are good, some days aren't as good.
Yeah.
The stuff that, I still got my stuff.
Yeah.
But I have the, the clarity and the confidence and the courage to take my doubts for a ride again.
Yeah.
Where
You
did
know
you
what I mean?
That's
learn?
awesome, dude. I like that.
Where did you learn to now deal with life and the stresses and, when loans fall apart or whatever? What tools do you have now that keep you from reverting to old habits, other than the obvious that I'm like you, I'm done. That's it. There ain't no going back.
I do a lot of yoga.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do a lot of yoga. I meditate a lot. Get into, the spiritual component of things. I personally wasn't involved in AA. There's a whole story background behind that. Me being taken to Al-Anon when I was 9 years old, not knowing what was going on. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
but when you have clarity, and where I am now as well, is when you tap into that source energy, right? Some people call it God,
Yeah.
right? There's a lot of names for it. Okay. Um, it's something bigger than you, you know, that energy, that spiritual essence of who we are, like what will give you the strength to quit drinking? Here's the bottom line of it, right? You wanted some accountability, you want to know the fucking facts. You don't like the way things are going, change them,
Yeah.
right? Can't change it, change your attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Have We hold the power,
And
because
then, yeah.
we have willpower. We have the power to choose. The choice is yours. And what has happened for me, since it was willpower, I had to will myself to quit, right? To not drink in the beginning. It goes from being willful to soulful,
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
right? I'm not powered by will anymore. I'm powered by soul. I'm soul powered.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I do.
And that is very empowering. When I got sober, I tapped into my spiritual nature. I'm a practitioner of Tibetan Buddhist philosophy.
Nice.
So Buddha was my guide, right? And Buddhism is more of a mind science than it is a religion,
Mm-hmm.
right? And Buddha taught me the skills on how to develop my mind and my heart so that I suffer less and be more happy.
Yeah. It's amazing, dude.
And I've
And I
been practicing, and
did you find
keep
that
going.
right away after sobriety, or was that kind of a slow path to that?
Well, so by no coincidence, Buddhism I'd been exposed since I was a little guy,
Okay.
right? My father's father moved to California in like 60s, 70s.
Yeah.
Lived in California, and he had some exposure to it.
Gotcha.
So indirectly, like I would see things like he would send like hotais. They're a Buddha. He had them because you rub its belly and it brings wealth and prosperity, right? So while the intentions weren't necessarily pure, the exposure was still there, and you get some from the periphery, right?
Absolutely.
There's
Yeah.
some collateral benefit from that. My father was also exposed to Buddhism when he went to Vietnam.
Mm,
So like he came back, and I have stuff from my grandfather. I have a Buddhist rosary that my dad picked up in Vietnam.
that's cool.
That's probably shit, uh, 50 years old.
That's awesome.
That's with me.
Yeah.
And so I always like it made sense to me. Like I like you can feel it, right?
Yeah.
You feel what you feel resonates and speaks to you. And I got sober, and I was asking my therapist, who also helped save my life. I met her, Elena, when I was in college, and I had a breakdown when I was starting to be like, I don't want to live like this anymore.
Yeah.
Um, when I first went to see her, she practices Buddhism, right? So like, there's all these, like, once you get clear and you open your eyes,
Yeah,
Signs are everywhere. The
yeah,
universe is working in your favor.
totally.
You know what I mean? You just
Yep.
got to get out of the cloud.
And that's what I always say too. Like, it's spirituality, whatever that looks like, Buddhism, Christianity, it's a radio station. It's an internal radio station that you just got to dial yourself into, and you just got to look for those opportunities to plug into it and listen, and put your energy out in the world, put whatever out in the world, and then listen, and feel things, and then listen to that feeling in your heart, and inside of you. And I mean, that's where this podcast was born from,
Yeah.
was that what I call that still small voice.
Man,
Once you wake up, when you wake up, you see things, you hear
totally.
things. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
When you're numb because you're drinking and or doing whatever else it is you're doing, you can't see, man. You can't see, you can't hear. Your brain's not working, right? You're not there. But
Absolutely.
once you get that stuff out of your life, and it's like, man, I can see and I can hear. And what's that? Like
Totally. Totally.
the signs are everywhere. And you're now in a space where you're open to receive them. And
Absolutely.
then from there, which is what my story's been, for the past 18 years, it's all, it's about healing,
Absolutely.
So like I told you about the train wreck, there's a whole, like we hadn't even gotten into where it starts to get good. Maybe, it's been we've been on for a while, so maybe we'll save that for another time, but
Yeah.
Well, Colin, let me ask you, man. My life got a lot better when I figured out meditating and yoga on a few different levels. I want to dive into that really quick to help our listeners because, again, there's so many different ways to get right. Can you just, 5 minutes or so, just explain that meditation and yoga mindset? And real quick before you do, my whole thing was not letting the thoughts in. So how I meditate and with yoga is just focus on breathing and what I'm doing with my hands, whether it's moving different movements or whatever, and not letting those thoughts come in. Like acknowledge them. Hey, thank you for coming in, but we're not doing that right now.
Yeah.
And then just being able to focus and breathe through things. So I'd love to get your take on it, Colin.
yeah, that was a good observation that you met when you were saying, I don't let those thoughts in. And then you went on to say, let them in, but say no, thank you, and let them go. You can't stop them. You can't
Right.
stop that monkey mind, that non-talk, right? That endless chatter, which is almost entirely negative, right? You can't stop it because the thoughts won't stop coming. So you let them come up, and just as easy as or just as quickly as they come up, you let them go, and it takes practice, right? And also to your point, Aaron, it's about breathing, right? And if you want, focus on one thing, it's focus on your breath. In meditation can kind of wig people out, man. Like they don't like it kind of has like a woo woo feeling, or and actually, I think a bit of that has alleviated because our collective consciousness has really started to come together, and we're elevating and we're vibrating at a higher frequency. So maybe it's not. I can let go of that. It's not as woo woo as maybe it used to be.
Yeah.
But meditation just means to bring awareness to, right? So when you give yourself, when you meditate or you bring awareness to your breath, for example, you create space. And in that space, you can choose to respond versus react to whatever the stimulus is. As far as yoga is concerned, I love yoga for a number of reasons. Yoga is meditation in motion, right? And the type of yoga that I do is called vinyasa. Vinyasa means breath to movement. So with every breath, like one movement's an in breath, next movement is an out breath. And so you're focused on your breathing and you're moving while you're doing it. And because you're moving your body and you're pumping fresh oxygenated blood through your system, and the way you're breathing, like ujjayi breathing, you would learn about that. You you activate certain nerves in that help calm you down, and you sweat and you get your heart. Yeah, man. I mean, yoga is the foundation of my mental well-being. You get physical exercise, you get mental clarity, you learn how to push past your quote unquote perceived edge, right? So like, I'm being challenged because it's hot and I'm holding a pose and I feel like I'm at my edge. And then my teacher will say, is that your edge or is that your perceived edge?
Yeah,
Hold it. And you learn to let the pose hold you. And I mean, I could go on and on and on about yoga. But it has been one of it's my favorite thing to do. And we talk about practicing on our mat for life off our mat. All the stuff that I learn in the yoga studio makes me better out here on the street. I'm a better husband. I'm a better father. I'm a better friend. I'm a better leader. I'm a better teammate. I'm a better servant to the people that we help buy houses, and the builders and the agent partners and everybody else that we work with that count on us. And when I'm especially in the business that we're in, it's emotionally charged. Shit, life is emotionally charged. Everything is emotionally charged. And like dude, right there, that conscious breath, man, like that's my fuel. I used to, if I would get nervous and anxious, and I still do all day long, right? And sketched out and uncomfortable, rather than drinking, passing out, and coming to a couple days later going, what's happened?
Yeah, deal with that fallout.
I can breathe. I breathe, I get my center, I get my strength, and I can respond.
Yeah.
I wish everybody. I mean, I wish I could get everybody in the yoga studio, man.
And I would say,
Me too, dude.
I would say this is funny because I've never actually really practiced it much, but it was mentioned in a conversation the other day, and I was like, you know what, I'm open to that. Like, I think that's amazing because I think for me personally, like, obviously, alcoholics, drug addicts, they kind of struggle with impulse control, and I feel like yoga could be one of those things that really like strengthens that impulse control, and just being like, okay, I'm not going to react or respond to this emotion. I'm going to sit with it for a minute. I like what you said. Let it come in and be like, no, that's not allowed right now. So it's just really like, that's what I think I like the most about it. It's just that conscious awareness of everything.
Dude,
I think
it'll
you
change
should
your life, man.
I think you should get into that. I'm never going to tell you what to do, man, but I think from learning a lot about you these last 12 episodes and everything, it'd be something for you that you might find enjoyable.
Dude, and it's funny too because I'm very adolescent in my journey, right? And so these desires of like starting to work out, or like, hey, where do I like, your personality doesn't change when you get sober, right? Like, I still have those things in me that led me to drinking. So it's like, what do I do outside of drinking to deal with those issues, right? Like, what kind of healthy things can I introduce into my life? And so it's like I'm at that precipice right now where I'm like starting to work out and starting to run and, really finding enjoyment in those things.
Yeah. That's an interesting one too, man, because like I'm not a gym rat, dude. I hate the gym.
Yeah.
You got to move your body, but I'm not going in a gym because that's not my scene. I hate it. Not, like it's, I don't mean to be so critical, but it's just not for me, right?
Yeah.
The only time I ever ran when I was running from the cops. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, dude, I hear you there.
I'm not going running for fun. You know what I mean? I'm running to escape. But I do love to go for walks.
Yeah.
There's nothing better. Let's see. Moving your body is one of the best things that you can do for yourself.
Yeah.
Because when you move your body, you release endorphins. Like, so the other stuff, like when you used to get high off of chemicals, man, you get high off of what your body naturally produces for you. And when you feel that, like people that do run and they talk about a runner's high, I've never experienced it, but I understand that it's a true thing. Like, cause I've gotten it in different ways.
Right.
Like those endorphins that your body releases for you, you know, the serotonin that gets released and pumped into your body, that fresh oxygenated blood is amazing. And when and you feel your muscles, like, dude, I'm shredded. And that's not why I started to go. It's interesting, like with yoga, because some people go to yoga for the workout, right? It's a workout. If, you know, people think of yoga and it's like, oh, like it's not the stuff you see people doing at the resort down by the pool, you know, and like that's yoga, right? But that's not how we get down. You know what I mean? Like we're doing hot vinyasa power flow. I got buddies that do like what's like CrossFit. And they'll be talking shit and be like, oh, you want to come work out, come to CrossFit? I'm like, bring your ass to the yoga studio.
Right.
Right. They come and then I'm dragging their ass out at the end going, you okay, big boy? You know what I mean?
Some of the killers, I do CrossFit every morning, and some of the killers in that gym, they go do yoga at least once a week.
Really?
Yeah, dude. It's some of
It'll
like
make you more flexible. So, my point is that I go for my nerves, right? Like I'm a nervy dude, man. I'm tweaky, super tweaky, right? And I'm tweaky. I would drink, right? Numb the tweak. Now I go, you know, now it's, you know, like yoga is my medicine. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, I go in there to breathe. I go in there to calm the monkey mind. Yeah. And one of the things about being in yoga, man, is like when you're doing it, you have to you have to pay attention and try. You have to try so hard. There's no time to be thinking about the bullshit. You know, it's like I just gotta like in your yogis, your teachers, and your, you know, the people in your community, in your class will remind you to breathe. You know, it's like, man, I gotta hold this and I gotta breathe. I don't have time to be thinking about, you know, the projections and the bullshit that is either in the past or in the future that's not right here, right now, that really doesn't fucking matter in the big picture anyway. We make ourselves crazy over stuff that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And that's kind of been my mental practice too. Like throughout this stuff is like, okay, this one thing made me feel this way. I'm going to take that, go over here and sit with it. Let my brain calm down, you know, to the point where I can actually think about this rationally. And then 99% of the time I'm like, wow, this is really dumb.
Yeah. So yoga it gives you so many tools, right? So like when I'm in a pose and I'm shaking, you know, like I got Elvis legs, my legs look like Elvis because like I'm about to shake out of my skin because I can't hold it another second. You know, my teacher will be like, yes, you can.
That's awesome.
Right. And I'm like, you're fucking right. You know?
I love that.
And you do it, dude, and you feel like a gangster when you come out of it, and you're so strong and you're so proud, and you do get stronger and stronger and stronger mentally and physically. Yeah. So when stuff comes up out here on the street that used to make me tweak, I don't even notice it anymore.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I don't even notice it. It doesn't even faze me. Right. And as I've continued along my path and I continue to heal, you know, there's not much that really, really fades me anymore. Right. When I've been nose to nose and belly to belly with the devil. And I lived to tell about it.
Yeah.
So sure. I come out of hell throwing buckets of water on motherfuckers still on fire. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I love that, dude. Hell yeah.
That's my deal. That inspires me. I'm not ashamed or embarrassed about the fact that I was a drug addict for nearly to some degree for about a decade.
Yeah.
I'm really proud of myself because I'm the one that was like, no, I'm gonna put that down. That's not me. Right. Yep. this is a new version of me, and that version of me gets better and better and better over time. And I would be embarrassed if I was still doing the same shit.
See, and that's the thing, dude, that I always say. It's like that's the ultimate level of grit, right? I think once you can set that shame and that guilt down and be like, okay, you know what? Yeah, that was a part of my life. All of that happened. I admit it. I accept it. I'm sorry, and you get through that, dude, it is so freeing, and yeah.
Absolutely. And so it's, the word that comes up for me is gratitude.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, dude, I'm just glad I'm alive.
And that's the thing, man. It's like you get this feeling, and that's why we started this podcast, because it's like, I love that you say that you love, like, you're proud of that, dude. That takes the ultimate amount of grit to look at yourself and be like, I do not like anything about this person. I'm going to stand up and go over here and change it.
It's the ultimate
That,
flex. It's the ultimate flex.
yeah, I
Ultimate.
agree, dude.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's why
Like,
I love having these conversations, because every conversation is so different, but also very similar in the same way, and it's like we just glean this little chunk of wisdom from people every time we have this conversation. And dude, even having these conversations, I feel like, is flexing that muscle again and again, and it feels so good.
it gets better.
That's crazy.
It gets better and better and better and better and better. So all the brothers and sisters that are listening to the call, if you're struggling with carrying guilt or shame, or I feel you, I get it. Do yourself a favor and let it go.
Yeah.
If it's not serving you, put that shit down.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Lighten your load, and then you can move forward. Nobody's fucking keeping score. Nobody's going to hold it against you. You know what I'm saying? They will look at you and go, here goes dumb shit doing the same fucking shit they've been doing forever and ever and ever.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Hanging out with the riffraff, fucking up, wasting your life. That's nothing to be proud of. Put that down and do something different. And then you'll be so proud of yourself. There's one of my favorite things. I have a few favorite things about not drinking. One of them is being proud of myself.
Yeah.
Man, that shit feels good.
It does feel good.
Like, you can't tell me shit. I'm proud of myself.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like that.
You said something earlier too, where it was like either lay it down or walk away from her. I want to add something to that. If you're trying to change your life, if you can't do those things, you can also ask for help. And I just want to put that out there. And that's what we're here for, dude. Like, I'm not a clinician. I'm not a doctor. Neither is Aaron. We're just alcoholics. But we have resources. We're here to help. We're here to have that conversation. So I just want to say, like, because that was for me. Like, I just had to stand up and be like, look, I don't know how to do this. I need help.
Yeah, to be sure. That's what what I was saying before. I had a lot of help.
Yeah.
I had a lot of help. And that kind of goes back to tell somebody your secret.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That right there, holy shit, I'm covered in chill bumps when I said that. Tell your secret. You know what I mean? Then you don't have to carry that burden anymore. Exactly. You know what I mean? Tell your secret and ask for help, and doors will start to open up for you. Right? That was a really big first step for me. It's like, once the cat was out of the bag,
it's game over.
Cats, jigs up, dude. Like, everybody, I told my secret. You know what I mean? Like, and now, there becomes like an accountability thing for it, and people want to help. People love you.
Absolutely, dude. And that's the thing.
I want to help you. I want you. I'm cheering for you. I want you to be good.
And there's so many people, dude, that will just come right alongside you. The community that we're building here in Northern Colorado around this is amazing. And I can say I could probably list off 30 to 40 people right now that I know in a heartbeat would give you the shirt off their back. And that's just I love that. Like, that's the community that we're trying to create.
And what's also that I have found to be inspiring to me, which gives me strength and motivation moving forward, is that I'm an inspiration for other people.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, talk about doing a 180 and turning things around. Go be the example.
Yep.
Go inspire somebody else to change.
Dude, and this is the cool thing about alcoholics. We are extreme people, right? Because of, it's pretty obvious, we took alcohol to the extreme. So think about this. That's not going to go away, right? But if you can just change your direction, now you can live an extreme life on the other side, extremely healthy, extremely helpful, extremely grateful. All of those things. You can literally go to the complete other side of the spectrum.
It's a superpower.
It is.
That's what dude, those are my favorite things to talk about is life, what life's like once you do put it down.
Man, I love that you said that because that's how I feel. Sometimes at first, you're just like, oh man, I'm kind of a piece of crap. But then once you move through that, dude, and you ask for forgiveness and, you receive forgiveness, dude, it is. I love that. It's a superpower. That's exactly how it feels.
Yeah, you're not a piece of crap. You're a beautiful, spiritual, divine being.
Right.
You have lost your way.
There you go. I love
You can always come back.
Absolutely.
You can always come back. And when you come back, the comeback is a whole lot stronger than the fall.
Yeah.
You think it was horrible and it was the worst and shit was bad. It fucking sucked. Like I almost died. I hated myself. I like it was horrible. But that comeback, man, that shit is strong.
It makes all of it worth it. Yeah, it makes all of it worth it.
That's awesome. Well, hey man, normally we ask, what is your nugget of wisdom that you want to leave people with? But I'm pretty sure you just handled that in the last few minutes, which is just great. To kind of put a bow on this thing, your insight is amazing, and you've been a really awesome breath of, I want to say fresh air because everything's fresh, but your perspective is unique to what we've seen so far, and I think you've really added value to this podcast, man. I really can't thank you enough for the insight that you have. And how you're really going to help some people see it a little bit of different ways, man, because that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. And I just want to say thanks, man, for being so vulnerable. Like I think it's probably after 18 years, it's probably easier, but it's not easy to talk about these things and to open up your life like that to a bunch of random people. So I just want to say thank you. And dude, your wisdom and all of it is bar none.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here. And it's my duty, man. You talk about service. It's part of my duty, my responsibility to show up for other people.
Yeah.
And it's a real honor and it's a blessing to do it. And I'm just glad I'm alive to be able to be here to do it.
Well, so are we, man. And it's a pleasure to meet you, even though it is virtual. I hope I get the chance to meet you face to face someday.
You will.
But dude, and honestly, maybe we schedule another episode sometime in the future because, dude, you and I, man, we are from the same cloth, brother. So I'd love to dig into your brain a little bit more and get to know you a little bit better. But for now, we're gonna wrap up this episode. And Colin, thank you again for your time, brother. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys. Appreciate everybody on the call. Love you all. Hang in there. You're good. You're gonna be okay.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Real quick, last 30 seconds. What states are you licensed in?
North Carolina.
Just North Carolina.
Local.
Okay.
Hyper local. Yep. North Carolina.
Perfect. So if you move North Carolina and need a loan, call this guy right here. You got
go.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, dude, how far is Denver from where you're at?
It's pretty far.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. But I if I come, I'll definitely be seeing you guys.
Well, no. There's a Denver, North Carolina, isn't there?
Oh.
I was like, wait a minute.
I'm sorry.
I
have a friend that lives in Denver, Now that I think about it, no, it's North Carolina. I was gonna say it might.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, there is. I mean, it can't be that far.
Okay.
Why?
Lake Norman? Does Lake Norman ring a bell?
Yeah.
Okay,
I know
they live.
Denver, North Carolina, and Lake Norman.
Yeah.
Lake Norman's down by Charlotte. Charlotte's probably about 4 hours from me.
Okay, cool. Yeah, they live. I realize the one in Colorado is quite a thing.
I was like, is that a trick question, dude?
Dude,
you about to relapse.
you know what? You're like, bro. You see these letters next to the city? That's called a state. No, but my best friends, some of my best friends live on Lake Norman, so I was just curious.
Yeah, man. If you ever find your way to North Carolina, we'll hook up. You know, and when the opportunity that I get to come to Colorado, I will be seeing you boys, and I look forward to wrapping my arms around you.
Likewise, brother. Well, have a great day, Colin, and thank you so much. To our listener, you guys can follow us on Instagram at Shattered Darkness NoCo. Sorry, I always get these confused. YouTube is Shattered Darkness Podcast. And we would love to get questions and interactions, things from the listener that you guys want us to talk about on air. So if you have questions or you need resources, please let us know. You can email us at shattereddarkness5@gmail.com. Did I forget anything?
All over, brother.
Cool.
Follow us on Spotify.
Spotify, YouTube. Appreciate it. Thanks again, Colin.
God bless you.
Take care.
You too.
Later.